Welcome back, everyone. 7:11 in the morning. 7th District Congresswoman Terry Sewell says she plans to ask the Justice Department to look into the closure of 31 rural DMV offices in Alabama. Now, Congresswoman Sewell says these closures will hurt poor, rural, and African-American residents. The Congresswoman says too many of them are in the 7th District for one thing, and she joins us in studio this morning to talk about this. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sarah.
Well, first of all of this is because of budget cuts, but you're not convinced that that's the only reason.
Well, look, I think that the rationale of closing 31 DMV offices, 29 of which means that those counties will have no driver's license offices, and those are in the areas, rural areas, and areas that are predominantly African American and low income. It means that the Alabama State Legislature is making a conscious decision to balance the budget on the backs of the people who can least afford it. And so because it disproportionately affects my district, of the 14 counties that I have in my district, 8 of them will have no DMV offices, 8 of them. And so I really think that that, coupled with the fact that Alabama has a photo ID law in order to vote, and driver's license being the most popular form of identification, means that those of my constituents that live in those areas will be limited, restricted in their ability to get forms of ID, critical forms of ID that are not only necessary for driving but also for voting. So I'm calling upon Attorney General Loretta Lynch to look into this. I'm inviting her to come to my district. I'm inviting her and the Department of Justice to participate in our town hall meetings to really understand the impact, the direct impact that it's having on those communities. I think that it's appalling that that the state legislature are using the closure of essential services in rural communities as a way to balance our budget.
Are you saying that there is a direct effort to actually the vote for minorities at the polls?
I'm saying that the rationale may be a budgetary rationale, but the direct consequence of this decision is to limit the access of availability of driver's licenses in rural communities and communities of color, and it's unacceptable. I think the combination of both, given that we have a voter ID law that requires a photo identification, the most popular form of that is a driver's license, and we're limiting it. I mean, the reality is that 8 of the 10 the highest percentage of African American voters are now no longer going to have DMV offices. Let me repeat that. 8 of the 10 counties with the highest percentage of non-white registered voters will no longer have DMV offices. And when you think about the fact that they're already part-time offices, how much savings are you really getting by doing that? And so, I am all about the business of all of my constituents having access to services, essential services such as DMVs, especially given the fact that they are critically important to their ability to vote.
Now, John Merrill, the Secretary of State, as you know, says that people can get those IDs at the Board of Registrars, and if they're needed, he'll issue or send out the mobile vehicles to bring them to those counties.
With all due respect, just because an alternative exists doesn't mean that alternative is readily accessible or easily obtainable by the people in rural communities. The fact of the matter is that many of these constituents of mine and folks that are directly affected have limited modes of transportation and don't have access to broadband or limited access to broadband. So giving them the option of having online renewal of licenses and or bringing around a van, a mobile unit once a year does not give them the kind of accessibility they need, especially given the fact that they must have it in order to vote. So I believe that in restricting one person's access to voting because of these closures is a denial of all Alabamians the integrity of the electoral process in general. So I'm going to be fighting this. I think that it's unacceptable that we're actually balancing a budget on the backs of the people who are the least able to to afford it.
All right, Dr. Terry Sewell, so wonderful to have you here. We are out of time. I'm getting a large wrap, but I wanted to say that you're going to be meeting with the President's Administrator for Small Businesses today,
Yes.
which will affect minority businesses.
And women-owned businesses. The Small Business Administrator, Miss Administrator Maria Contreras Sweet, will be in Birmingham, Alabama. I look forward to welcoming her to Innovation Depot and for her to listen